Yeah, I'm just listening to Ian Dale at the moment, and it's about private health beds. And one of the union officials, GMB, is saying that the beds in the private sector should just be requisitioned. These people make outstanding profits. They should just be taken. It's a healthcare emergency. Take them, stuff like this. That's political, lot. And okay, it's an emergency. The government can requisition the beds. But when you take stuff from people, property rights come into it. And if you can pay them for it, then that's what should happen. I'm unsure what this guy would think if somebody said that they wanted to requisition his house. I'm sure he would say no. But if somebody said, okay, we need to put somebody in your house and we'll pay you for that, then that's a compromise, and that's what should be happening. And it's to my mind, it's as simple as that. Anyway, moving through the papers, ISIS travel advice, avoid Europe. Well, that's, mind you, we've still got adverts in here for it. I've got Starsky and Hutch. Wife number 5 is the love of my life. David Soul. Always liked him, yeah. He's a good guy. Desperate NHS pays £2.4 million a day for private beds. We pay more than that a day on overseas aid. Think about that. UK death toll 21, with 1,000 people infected, 1,100 anyway. Army on streets in weeks. Perhaps. I don't see it happening. The Observer, NHS and private hospitals join forces to fight the bat flu. Vaccine will be slower to reach UK after Brexit. Experts warn. Now, Brexit doesn't happen till the end of the year, that's December, right? But the Observer is an anti-Brexit paper, and they just love having a go at anything to do with it. The UK faces having to wait longer and pay more to acquire the bat flu virus because it has left the EU health experts and international legal experts won't pay. Well, who knows, who can tell? But that's 9 months away. You could have a baby in that time. Things change. Maybe there will be a bat flu virus. Maybe someone in Britain will invent it, in which case the Europeans will then have to get it from us. Who knows, who can tell? The Mail on Sunday. 2 powerful ways to fight the bat flu. Eat your way to bed, have sleep. So that would have been that, and they've just put a new header on it. Darkest day yet is UK death toll nearly doubles. Yeah, it doubled from 10 to 20. Let's get this thing in perspective. That's 1 person every 2 hours. 1 person every 2 hours. In a normal day, 2,000 people die every day. That's a normal day. 2,000, of which 10 of them were bat flu people. Army to guard hospitals and supermarkets. Well, this may or may not happen. Ministers have drawn up plans to put troops on the streets. It hasn't happened yet. It's just a plan. It's just a plan. Perhaps if the crazies keep on wrecking supermarkets and there's difficulty with supply chains because people like Spain and France are closing their borders, and vegetables and fruit will dry up because obviously a lot of fruit, tomatoes, celeries, stuff like that comes from Spain. It'll just dry up. We all know that. In a bid to shield the most vulnerable, the government is also expected to tell people over 70 stay at home. Under emergency legislation to prepare MPs within days, safeguards introduced after the scandal involving the killer, blah blah blah, will speed up cremations and burials. They're obviously expecting it would have to double or triple. It would have to be like 4,000 people a day dying of it and stuff like that. If we're talking of 500,000 people dying of it, right, over the course of a year, that's about maybe 2,000 people a day, which would double the death total. I think it's hyped up too much. I think the papers love it, the radio loves it. They've got a captive audience and that geeing them up. The amount of information, and even after like a good month of this, the amount of information which is being spouted on the radio and people coming on saying they've been on social media, oh goodness sake. It's quite simple. If you don't know what the symptoms are by now, you must have been in a cave. It's a cough, continuous, and it's a high temperature. So that your flu-like symptoms. Dry, persistent cough, high temperature. If it's not those two things, then 99% chance that you haven't got the bat flu. Lots of people will get the bat flu. It's got to the stage now where it's pointless testing. Why bother testing for it? If you haven't got those two symptoms, a high temperature and a dry cough, you don't need to be tested. What difference is it going to make if you're tested? Oh, well, if I'm tested, I'll self-isolate. That's possibly. Fine, okay. Diana's secret's buried for another 75 years. Well, the Star always has something which is not the same as anybody else, but I think it's the same thing which happened with Princess Di. You've got this mass hysteria, and it'll subside, and I think it'll subside relatively quickly. And as I say, in 6 months' time, people will look back and say, "What the hell was we thinking about?" So on the news, dominated supermarkets. Disarray hits US things. Let's take a look. Premier League suspended. Number of cases has grown. Daily confirmed cases. Source 300. Okay. Confirmed. So no confirmed cases. I'm in this grey bit here, which will go pink, because obviously the rest of it will go pink, but what it's looking like is Teesside's got none. Teesside looks like it's got none. And the coast beside Tynemouth's got none. Yeah. Well, look at this. Prevent the diseases, which they've tried to do. The delay phase, try and slow the spread of the virus. Ask those with minor symptoms to self-isolate, limit large gatherings, encourage homework and close schools. They're telling you that this is a possibility. But what they're also saying is if they close the schools, it's not just going to be for 2 weeks. It's going to be for like 4 months. And the school holidays. Maybe they should do, maybe they shouldn't. But at the present time, bearing in mind that young kids, like people under 20, there's no fatalities from it. So the worst that's going to happen to them, they'll be off school for 3 or 4 days with bat flu. They'll get immunity, they'll go back to school. It'll increase the percentage of the herd with immunity, and they won't be spreading it. Each person that goes through that process of getting immunity makes the herd stronger. means that the parts of the herd that are susceptible and weak, right, percentage-wise, if 90% of the herd is immune, then it's a lot harder and it slows it down. Like Prime Minister Boris said, you've got to stamp on the sombrero, cut the peak down. I have heard nobody in these ranting and raving people offer any other solutions other than everybody else is doing something different. And my answer to that would be, if lots of people were jumping off the Tyne Bridge, would you? Possibly you would. Maybe there's an oil tanker on the bridge and it's on fire. Jump off the bridge. But if people are just jumping off the bridge, you need to ask yourself the question, is this the best thing to do at this time? And I think the best thing to do at this time is keep the schools open. It puts far more stress on the system if all the kids are off. It really does. Britain has the highest percentage of working women in the EU. Some of these people would have to stop work to go to home to look after their kids. People have got mobile phones, they've got Skype, they've got FaceTime on their phones, they can keep in contact with them, give their kids a sandwich and stuff like that. Anyway, the mitigation phase ensure treatment for the worst cases and minimise impact. Delay non-urgent care and employ retired medical staff instruct emergency service to cover critical functions only. Yeah, it's triage. It's people just don't want to accept these things, and they can't seem to accept because the expectations are far too high. They're ringing up 111 with minor things which they can find out either on the web or listening to the main radio or TV broadcasts. But people just won't accept it. And they ring up. They're wanting some sort of panacea from ringing 111. The people in 111 just have a set list. They'll ask them a certain couple of questions and they'll give them a certain couple of replies to them. Most of this stuff you can self-analyse yourself. People have got themselves into a total frenzy about this. Anyway, hang five.